3D platformers have been a staple of gaming ever since we shifted from 2D sprites to polygonal characters. Entering the third dimension was revolutionary, opening up endless possibilities. But if you had to show off 10 of the best to a reptilian alien that spent the last 5,000 years living under a mountain in Wales, which would they be? That's the question we asked ourselves, and this is the list that we came up with. Here's hoping the reptilians like it. Ah, the little yellow fellow with a questionable purpose if some fan theories are to be believed. SpongeBob has enjoyed a resurgence in popularity over the last few years, and his contribution to video games has not gone unnoticed. Originally released back in the PS2, GameCube and OG Xbox era, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom was a hit. But you don't have to rummage around for the old console and the dodgy SCART cables to enjoy this adventure. The remaster, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, is every bit as good as the original, and then some. Gameplay wise, nothing has changed. It's the same platformer you played when Blur and Britney ruled the radio. That's the thing we had before Spotify. But it has been given a complete visual do-over, and it looks great. The platforming is a little dated, sure, but it still feels great, and the silly romp through Bikini Bottom is undeniably fun. Okay, for this one, you will need to go rummaging around for the old console and the dodgy SCART cables, unless you know your way around an emulator, because Gex Enter the Gecko is now considered an ancient relic. Gex Enter the Gecko has a ridiculous story about a couch potato lizard who enters the TV realm because the government owes him money. Look, the 90s were different. People were still recovering from the 80s. There were a lot of wild ideas. The premise might be bonkers, but it opened up the possible levels that players could explore with worlds based on popular TV genres. It's a novel concept, and while it might not look like much these days, and the control scheme is stiffer than my knees on a cold winter morning, it's still a fun little game that's worth a look. Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time, has one of the best cast of characters in platforming history, no question. It takes the main characters that were already loved from the previous games and expands on them and their friendship in a zany time-travelling adventure. Gameplay wise, Thieves in Time expands massively on what the previous games already did. Stealth is still a core component, but there's much more to it, with plenty of combat and era-specific activities for each jump through time. If you've got a PS Vita lying around, consider this one a must-play for the little handheld that could. A Hat in Time is not a perfect game, and it does have some problems when it comes to its occasionally wonky camera, but for the most part, it's a bloody good jump around, and worthy of 7th place on this list. With its cute, quirky cast and fun-to-follow story, it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon come to life. It's good fun to play too, with very smooth mechanics that genuinely make getting through its large levels a real joy. They're enough to make even the clumsiest of players feel like certified speedrunners. You may not have heard of Daxter if you didn't own a PSP back in the day. It was a spin-off from Naughty Dog's popular Jak and Daxter games that ended up shifting even more copies than Jak 2 and Jak 3. Quite an accomplishment for a little handheld game. Daxter's solo adventure is a must-play for fans of the franchise, and you would be surprised at just how well it plays on a PSP, with that one little weird nubbin instead of 2 full analog sticks. It shouldn't have worked, but it did, and if you can hunt down a working PSP and a copy of Daxter, you've got yourself a cheap and cheerful weekend right there. Alright, Fall Guys might not necessarily be in the same vein as the other entries on this list, given that it's multiplayer, but it is, by definition, a 3D platformer. The only difference is that instead of swearing that the game is rubbish and making you lose, you'll be cursing the other players for sending you to your doom. The premise is simple. 100 players must get to the end of a level. First to the end is the winner. Push, shove, jump, and if you've got a couch co-op thing going on, bite your way to success. It's a game that rewards quick thinking and smart plays, which is why I don't have much joy in it, but I have seen some incredibly impressive feats accomplished, with games being won and lost by last second flings to the finish line. Ratchet & Clank got the remake treatment in 2016, and it turned out to be the winning formula that we'd all been missing. Taking the original game beat for beat and modernising the graphics, refining the gameplay, and turning the cutscenes into mini-movies was the right call, and it served Insomniac and Sony very well indeed. With loads of planets to visit, treasures to find, and of course, lots of wild and wonderful weapons to get to grips with, the Ratchet & Clank remake belongs on every PS4 in the land. Super Mario Sunshine may not be the most loved Mario game by fans, but come on, it's one of the best, really, isn't it? Decking out Mario with a sentient water pump and sending him on an adventure through paradise was an inspired idea, and peak Nintendo, really. These days you can play Sunshine on the Switch, though you're best off getting a GameCube controller and an adapter for the authentic experience. There's a reason this list is littered with games from long ago. Before we all got stuck into the rut of yearly shooters, stabbers and soccers, it was all about lengthy platformers. Sure, you could beat BanjoKazooie in a weekend, but could you complete it? Like really complete it 100% with all collectibles? I very much doubt it. BanjoKazooie might not look like much these days, but I promise you, give it half an hour and you'll forget about the graphics as you obsessively hunt down the musical notes collectibles. Play this one on Xbox with the rare replay pack and you'll even get a few achievements for your trebles. And now for our number 1, which is a number 2. Psychonauts 2, to be precise, the decades in waiting sequel that you most definitely need to play. The platforming is top tier with brilliant and at times bonkers level design. It doesn't hurt that the story is actually really well done too, and touches on topics of mental health in a creative and compassionate way without banging one over the head. Give this one a play, I promise you, you will not look back. And that is our list. Of course you disagree with it. To disagree and leave a 4,000 word YouTube comment is to be human. Just keep it clean, please. Of course, share your favourite platformers down in the comments below and maybe we'll follow up with another list in the future. Thanks for watching, don't forget the like and subscribe buttons, and remember to turn on notifications so that you're notified whenever we've got new stuff. I've been Chris, you've been gorgeous, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, cheers my dears.